a quiet, remote village nestled between green hills and winding rivers lived a man named Rafik. He was known throughout the village as a stern and protective father, but also as a man of honor and fairness. Rafik had one daughter, Amina, who was not like other girls in the village. From the moment she could walk, she displayed a natural strength and fearlessness that amazed everyone who saw her. She was quick, clever, and never backed down from a challenge, no matter how big or small. The villagers often whispered about her, some with admiration, others with a bit of fear. Amina had been trained from a very young age by her father and other teachers in the village to defend herself. She learned to run fast, climb trees, and even practice traditional martial arts. But her training was not just physical. Her father had also taught her the importance of honesty, courage, and respect. Amina grew up understanding that strength alone was not enough. It had to be balanced with wisdom and kindness. As Amina grew older, she became known not only for her skills but also for her personality. She was independent and confident. She would often spend her mornings helping the villagers with chores, climbing trees to collect fruits, or practicing martial arts. In the open fields, she enjoyed freedom and did not like being restricted. Many young men in the village admired her, but few dared to approach her because they knew about her strength and fiery spirit. Some were intimidated by the thought of being tested by her, Father Rafik, while others simply did not understand her courage and independence. Despite this, Amina remained humble. She never bragged about her abilities, and she treated everyone with respect, whether they were elders, children, or strangers. One day, as the sun rose over the village, Rafik called a meeting in the village square. Villagers gathered, curious about what the stern father had to say. Children ran around, while adults whispered in anticipation. Rafik, standing tall and confident, addressed the crowd with a serious expression. He spoke about his daughter, Amina, and how proud he was of her skills and character. Then, in a voice that carried across the square, he made a statement that surprised everyone. He said that whoever wished to win his daughter's hand in marriage would first have to face her in a series of challenges. Only the person who could overcome Amina in these tests would earn the right to claim her. The villagers were shocked. Some laughed, thinking it was impossible, while others exchanged worried glances. They knew Amina was not someone who could be easily defeated. Rafik's announcement spread quickly throughout the village and nearby communities. Young men came from neighboring areas, eager to prove themselves. Some were confident, believing they could win, while others were cautious, having heard stories about Amina's unmatched courage. Despite the attention, Amina did not feel pressured or arrogant. She saw the announcement as a responsibility, a way to honor her father's wishes while demonstrating her own strength and fairness. She understood that the challenges were not just about physical skills, but about character, patience, and wisdom. She began to prepare herself, practicing every day, refining her techniques, and focusing on her mental strength. She knew that the outcome of these challenges would influence more than just her own future. It would also affect the perception of women in her village and how courage and integrity were valued. The first days after the announcement were filled with excitement and tension. Villagers gathered daily to watch Amina practice, learning from her discipline and determination. Children would imitate her moves, trying to match her agility, while adults discussed the qualities required to face her. Even the strongest young men in the village felt a mix of curiosity and fear. They understood that winning Amina's respect would require more than physical strength. It would require intelligence, patience, and a respectful heart. Amina, meanwhile, remained calm. She did not let the attention distract her. She focused on her training, practicing with precision and learning from each attempt. Her father watched proudly, knowing that he had raised a daughter who was not only strong but also wise and fair-minded. As days passed, some young men attempted to face Amina in informal challenges. The results were always the same. They underestimated her skill and lost quickly. However, Amina never mocked or humiliated anyone. She treated every competitor with respect, explaining their mistakes and encouraging them to improve. This attitude made her even more admired by the villagers. People began to understand that strength was not only about defeating others but also about showing respect and fairness. Amina became a role model, not just for girls but for everyone in the village, teaching lessons of courage, discipline, and integrity through her actions. Among the many who came to challenge her, one young man named Tariq stood out. He was different from the others. While many approached the challenge with pride or the desire to claim Amina's hand, Tariq approached with curiosity and respect. He wanted to understand her, not just to win. When he first attempted the challenge, he lost, but he did so gracefully, showing humility and a willingness to learn. Amina noticed this, as did her father. Rafiq realized that Tariq's intentions were genuine, and Amina appreciated the sincerity behind his actions. It became clear that the challenge was not just about strength or victory, but about discovering true character. As the sun set over the village, casting golden light over the fields, Amina continued her practice. She moved with grace and power, her every step precise and confident. She knew that the days ahead would bring more competitors, more tests, and more challenges. But she also knew that these experiences would shape her future and the future of her village. The announcement by her father had started a journey, one that would teach lessons of courage, respect, and true strength. The villagers watched in awe, realizing that Amina was not just a skilled young woman but a symbol of determination and fairness, someone who would inspire generations to come. The first part of the story closes with Amina standing on a hill overlooking the village, the wind blowing through her hair. She felt a mix of excitement and responsibility. She knew the challenges ahead would be difficult, but she was ready. She had been trained for this moment her whole life, and she understood the importance of each test. It was not only about who could defeat her, but about who could rise to meet the qualities she valued most: honesty, courage, and respect. With determination in her heart and a calm focus in her mind, Amina prepared for the journey ahead, knowing that her life and choices would soon become a story the village would never forget. The news of Rafiq's challenge spread far and wide. Villagers talked about it constantly, and many young men from neighboring areas began arriving, eager to test themselves against Amina. Some came with pride, some with fear, but all were curious to see the girl who had already earned the respect of everyone in the village. The village square, once quiet and peaceful, now became a place of excitement and anticipation. Children ran around asking questions about the challengers, while adults whispered among themselves, discussing who might actually have a chance to overcome Amina. Amina, however, remained calm. She understood that each new arrival brought with it a different kind of challenge. Some were strong and fast, others clever and cunning, but she knew that winning the challenge would require more than just physical ability. She trained each morning in the open fields, practicing her martial arts moves with precision, running along the riverbank to build stamina, and climbing the hills to sharpen her agility. At the same time, she spent time practicing patience and observation, learning to read people's expressions and intentions. Amina understood that the true test was not just strength, but also fairness, intelligence, and character. The first young men to step forward were confident, convinced that they could impress Amina and claim victory easily. One by one, they tried to match her in tests of strength, agility, and strategy. Some attempted simple races, thinking that speed alone would be enough. Others challenged her in wrestling or climbing exercises, believing that raw power would secure their win. But time and again they were humbled. Amina's skills were far beyond what anyone had anticipated. She moved with precision, always aware of her surroundings, and anticipated their actions, responding with control and accuracy. Even though she defeated them, Amina never gloated or mocked. She always offered guidance, pointing out what they could do differently, and encouraged them to improve. This fairness earned her even more respect. The villagers began to see that her strength was not just in her body, but in her mind and her heart. Strength without kindness, they realized, was meaningless. People started saying that Amina was not just a competitor, but a teacher and a role model. Her ability to win without cruelty inspired everyone who watched her. Among the first challengers, there was one young man named Tariq who approached the challenge differently. Unlike the others, he did not come to boast or show off. He came with curiosity and a desire to understand the girl who had captured everyone's attention. When he first faced Amina, he failed, but he did so gracefully. He did not complain or make excuses, and he treated Amina with respect. Amina noticed the difference immediately. There was a sincerity in his eyes, a willingness to learn rather than dominate, and she found herself intrigued. Rafiq, watching quietly from the sidelines, also noticed Tariq's behavior. He had hoped that one day someone would come who valued honesty and integrity as much as courage and skill. As more young men arrived, the challenges became more complex. Rafiq organized tests that combined physical skill with strategy and problem-solving. Amina had to navigate obstacle courses, solve simple puzzles while under pressure, and demonstrate quick thinking in unexpected situations. Many of the challengers struggled. Some gave up halfway through, frustrated by the difficulty. Others tried to force their way through, relying on brute strength, only to fail. Amina, meanwhile, performed with calm focus, never rushing, never letting arrogance take over. Each time she completed a challenge successfully, the crowd cheered, not just for her skill but for the fairness and grace with which she competed. Tariq continued to participate, returning day after day. Each time he learned something new, practicing what he had seen and observed. He asked questions politely and listened carefully to Amina's advice. His persistence impressed both her and her father. Rafiq began to see the potential for a true partnership, not just a competitor who wanted to win. Amina, too, started paying closer attention to Tariq, noticing his patience, respect, and desire to improve. Slowly, a bond began to form between them, not based on competition but on mutual understanding. As the weeks passed, the village became captivated by the events. Children tried to imitate Amina's moves in the fields, while adults discussed the lessons they could learn from the challenges. The contests were no longer just about winning. They were about observing character, building trust, and understanding the importance of respect and humility. Every young man who came learned something, whether he succeeded or failed. Amina's example inspired them to improve themselves, to value learning over pride, and to understand that true strength involved more than just physical ability. 1 day, a particularly strong and confident young man arrived, claiming he could defeat Amina in every test. He was taller, faster, and heavier than most of the previous challengers. The villagers gathered, eager to see if he could truly overcome her. The challenge began with running and climbing exercises. At first he seemed to have the advantage, but Amina's skill and strategy allowed her to keep pace, anticipating his moves and countering them effectively. When the final part of the challenge, a balance and coordination test, came, he struggled and lost. Despite his defeat, Amina approached him calmly, offered advice, and encouraged him to practice and return. Another day, once again her fairness impressed everyone. Throughout all this, Tariq observed and practiced quietly. He did not let the victories or failures of others distract him. Instead, he focused on learning and improving himself. Amina noticed this determination and began to engage him in conversations. They discussed strategies, shared observations, and talked about values like honesty, courage, and respect. Through these discussions, a mutual respect grew. Tariq's sincerity stood out among all the challengers, and Amina began to see him not just as a participant, but as someone she could trust and admire. By the end of the second part of the story, the village had come to understand the deeper meaning behind Rafiq's challenge. It was not simply about finding someone who could defeat Amina physically. It was about finding a person of character, someone who could show courage, humility, and respect. Tariq's patience and sincerity had begun to shine, making him stand out among all the others. Amina, focused yet thoughtful, realized that the challenge was shaping not just her life but the lives of everyone around her. The villagers watched in awe, learning that true strength was measured not only by skill, but by heart and character. As the sun set over the village, Amina practiced her moves alone in the fields. The wind blew gently through the trees, carrying with it the voices of children imitating her, and the distant laughter of villagers. She felt a quiet satisfaction. The challenge had begun, and though many would fail, it was clear that lessons of courage, patience, and respect were already being learned. Amina looked toward the horizon, knowing that more challengers would come, and that the tests ahead would be even more demanding. But she was ready. With determination in her heart and focus in her mind, she prepared for the next day, confident that the true meaning of the challenge would soon be revealed. As the days turned into weeks, the challenges continued, and Amina's reputation in the village grew stronger. Every morning, the villagers would gather at the edge of the fields, eager to watch her practice or face a new challenger. Her dedication, calm focus, and fairness became a source of inspiration for everyone. People realized that Amina was not just physically strong. She had wisdom, patience, and respect that made her victories meaningful. Children watched her closely, trying to imitate her movements, while adults discussed how courage and humility could work together. More challengers began arriving from nearby villages. Some came for the thrill of testing themselves, others because they had heard of the challenge and wanted to earn a name for themselves. Many of them were strong, clever, and confident. Yet as each person faced Amina, the results were often the same. They were surprised by her skill, strategy, and composure. What set Amina apart was not just her physical strength, but the way she handled each challenge. She never humiliated anyone. Even when a challenger struggled or failed, she offered encouragement and advice. Her actions demonstrated that true strength was about fairness, respect, and integrity, not just winning a contest. Tariq continued to return day after day. Unlike many others, he did not come with pride or arrogance. He came with humility and a genuine desire to learn. Each time he faced Amina, he observed closely, noting her strategy, her movements, and her calm attitude. He practiced diligently between attempts, determined to improve. Though he often failed, he accepted his mistakes gracefully, learning from them rather than becoming frustrated. His perseverance impressed not only Amina, but also her father, Rafiq. The father had hoped to see someone who valued honesty, integrity, and effort as much as courage and skill. Tariq was beginning to show all of these qualities. As the challenges continued, Amina began to notice something more than just physical effort in Tariq. He asked thoughtful questions, observed carefully, and was willing to work hard without complaint. He did not try to show off or seek praise. Instead, he focused on understanding the essence of each challenge, learning from Amina's skill and guidance. Slowly, a bond began to form between them, not based on competition, but on mutual respect. Amina started engaging him in conversations, discussing strategies and sharing ideas about life, family, and community. This exchange helped both of them grow. Amina saw his sincerity, patience, and intelligence, while Tariq admired her courage, discipline, and fairness. The villagers began noticing the change too. Many young men who had come to prove themselves saw that Tariq's approach was different. He was persistent without being aggressive, respectful without being timid, and willing to learn from both success and failure. People admired him for these qualities. Some even began to reflect on their own behavior, realizing that strength was more than just physical ability. It included character, patience, and respect for others. Amina, watching the village's reactions, understood that the challenge was teaching more than just how to win a contest. It was teaching important life lessons. During one particularly difficult challenge, Rafiq organized a task that required both physical skill and mental strategy. The participants had to navigate a complex obstacle course while solving small puzzles at different points along the path. Many challengers struggled, unable to balance the physical demands with the need for careful thought. Some rushed through, making mistakes, while others hesitated too long, losing valuable time. Amina moved gracefully and efficiently, completing the course with precision. Tariq, though slower at first, carefully observed her approach, adjusted his strategy, and gradually improved. When he completed the course, though not the fastest, he had done so with attention to detail, careful planning, and calm determination. His performance impressed Amina and Rafik, showing that perseverance and intelligence could match strength and skill. As the days passed, Amina and Tariq began spending more time together outside the challenges. They talked about their dreams, family responsibilities, and the lessons they had learned from the challenges. Amina shared her experiences growing up in the village, learning martial arts, and understanding her father's teachings. Tariq spoke about his life, the values he had learned, and his desire to grow as a person. Their conversations revealed compatibility beyond competition. They respected each other's ideas, supported each other's growth, and began to trust one another. This connection became visible to the villagers, who admired the natural way their relationship was developing. Other young men continued to attempt the challenge, but few matched Tariq's combination of humility, determination, and respect. Some were strong or fast, but they often lacked patience or fairness. Others were clever but arrogant, thinking they could outsmart Amina without effort. Each attempt reinforced the lesson that the challenge was not about defeating her by force. It was about showing courage, sincerity, and integrity. Amina's fairness and guidance turned each attempt into a learning experience for the participants, further enhancing her reputation as a role model for the village. Rafik observed all of this quietly. He felt pride and relief. He had feared that someone might try to win Amina's hand through deceit, arrogance, or force. But Tariq's repeated efforts, his humility, and his respect reassured him. The father realized that the challenge had achieved more than he expected. It had tested not just strength but character, and Tariq had demonstrated the qualities he valued most. Amina, too, recognized the importance of these lessons. She understood that the challenge was as much about discovering the right person as it was about teaching respect, courage, and wisdom to the entire village. By the end of this part of the story, the village had come to understand the deeper meaning of Rafik's challenge. It was no longer just about strength or skill, it was about values, integrity, and character. Amina's fairness and patience inspired the villagers, teaching them that true strength comes with respect and humility. Tariq's persistence and sincerity made him stand out among all challengers, demonstrating that courage combined with humility could overcome any obstacle. As the sun set over the hills, Amina practiced her moves alone in the quiet fields. The breeze rustled the leaves, and the golden light of evening painted the village in soft colors. She felt a sense of calm satisfaction. The challenge had begun, and though many would fail, it had already taught important lessons about perseverance, respect, and character. Amina looked toward the horizon, knowing that more challenges awaited, but confident that the right person, someone who valued honesty and effort, would soon stand before her. With determination in her heart and a clear mind, she continued her practice, ready for the days ahead. The villagers watched from a distance, understanding that the true victory would not be about defeating Amina, but about proving one's character. Each challenge brought new lessons, strengthened bonds, and showed the importance of patience, courage, and respect. Amina's story was becoming a living example for everyone, a tale of strength not just in body but in heart and mind. The day of the final challenge arrived with an air of excitement and tension that swept across the village. Word of the approaching event had spread quickly, and villagers gathered early in the morning, filling the open fields with anticipation. Children sat cross-legged at the front, eyes wide with curiosity, while elders leaned on their walking sticks, whispering predictions about what might happen. Even the river seemed to carry the excitement, sparkling in the morning sun as if sharing in the villagers' energy. Rafik had designed a special series of tests for this day, ones that combined everything Amina had taught, including strength, agility, intelligence, and patience. The final challenge was not only a physical contest but a mental one, meant to test the depth of character in the person who hoped to earn Amina's hand. Unlike previous challenges, this one required cooperation, as well as skill. Amina stood calmly at the starting line, her posture confident, her eyes focused. She had trained for this moment for years, but she knew the test was not just for her. It was for the villagers to see the importance of values, integrity, and mutual respect. Tariq approached with calm determination. Unlike others who had come, in haste, seeking to show off their strength, he had prepared carefully. He moved with confidence but without arrogance, his focus entirely on understanding and completing the challenges alongside Amina. As the first task began, both were required to cross a series of narrow wooden bridges, suspended over a shallow stream. Many in the past had stumbled or rushed, but Tariq moved steadily, balancing carefully, while Amina guided him subtly with advice and encouragement. Their cooperation began to shine, showing the villagers the true meaning of teamwork. The next part of the challenge required them to solve a sequence of puzzles scattered around the field. Each puzzle demanded attention to detail and careful thought under pressure. Tariq and Amina worked together, combining their strengths. Amina's quick thinking and agility complemented Tariq's patience and observation skills. As they solved each puzzle, the crowd grew silent, watching in awe as the pair moved seamlessly, respecting each other's ideas and timing. It was clear that the challenge had evolved from a test of strength to a demonstration of character, collaboration, and mutual respect. Some villagers began to murmur in admiration. They realized that the winner would not be the person who was fastest, strongest, or cleverest alone, but the person who demonstrated trust, patience, and respect. Each small success built upon the last, and with each passing task, Tariq and Amina grew more synchronized. They moved through the challenges like a single team, their communication unspoken at times, yet perfectly understood. The villagers could see the bond forming between them, not of competition but of genuine respect and admiration. One of the final tasks was the most difficult, a test of endurance and courage. They had to climb a steep hill, carrying a large bundle, while navigating slippery paths and unexpected obstacles. Many in the past had given up, but Tariq and Amina encouraged each other with quiet words and steady support. Amina noticed Tariq's determination and careful approach, and Tariq noticed Amina's grace and strength. Together they reached the top, exhausted but victorious. The villagers erupted into cheers, recognizing that the real victory was the trust, patience, and respect that had guided them through the challenge. In the final moments, Rafiq stepped forward, his eyes shining. With pride, he had witnessed something far greater than he had imagined. The challenges had been completed, but the essence of the test was more profound than any physical contest. It was about understanding, collaboration, humility, and integrity. Tariq had shown patience, sincerity, and respect, while Amina had shown fairness, wisdom, and courage. Rafiq knew that his daughter had met someone who not only matched her in ability, but complemented her in spirit. The crowd continued to cheer, and villagers began to approach quietly, offering congratulations. Amina and Tariq stood side by side, their bond clear to all. The father knew that the challenge had achieved its true purpose. It was not about defeating Amina or claiming her hand through force. It was about recognizing qualities that mattered most, qualities that would ensure a life of mutual respect, understanding, and support. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow across the fields, the final challenge concluded not with a single winner, but with a celebration of character, integrity, and partnership. With the final challenge complete, Rafiq stepped forward, his voice carrying clearly across the field. He addressed the villagers first, praising Amina for her strength, fairness, and wisdom. Then he spoke directly about Tariq, acknowledging his perseverance, sincerity, and patience. He explained that the challenge had never been about speed or power alone, but about the values that built a strong, lasting relationship. The villagers listened attentively, nodding in agreement. The lesson had become clear. Character mattered far more than physical ability. Amina stood beside her father, her expression calm and thoughtful. She looked at Tariq, remembering all the challenges they had faced together. His repeated attempts, his willingness to learn, and his respect for her guidance had left a deep impression. She realized that she had come to trust him completely, not because he had won a contest, but because he had proven himself through consistency, patience, and understanding. For Amina, the challenge had transformed from a test into a journey, one that revealed who she respected, admired, and could imagine walking beside in life. The villagers gathered closer, some whispering softly about how remarkable the events had been. Many had expected a display of competition and rivalry, but instead they had witnessed something far greater, a display of respect, mutual support, and shared growth. Amina and Tariq had shown that real strength was not about defeating others, but about building trust and learning from one another. Even those who had failed in previous challenges felt inspired, realizing that courage and integrity were just as important as skill and strength. Rafiq then turned to Tariq, a proud smile on his face. He acknowledged the young man's determination and honesty, explaining that he had proven himself worthy not through force, but through character. Tariq, feeling a mix of pride and humility, bowed respectfully, expressing gratitude for the guidance, lessons, and trust he had received from both Amina and her father. In that moment, the bond between them became undeniable. It was a relationship built on shared values, mutual respect, and understanding, rather than just the outcome of a contest. The villagers began to cheer louder, celebrating not just Tariq's achievement, but the story of partnership and integrity that had unfolded before their eyes. Children clapped and laughed, inspired by Amina's grace and Tariq's humility. Elders nodded, seeing the lessons of patience, courage, and fairness passed down through actions rather than words. The village had learned that true victory was not about being the strongest or fastest, but about earning respect and trust through sincerity and effort. As the sun sank below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and orange, Amina and Tariq walked together through the fields. They spoke quietly, sharing thoughts about the day and the journey that had brought them to this moment. They laughed softly, recalling small mistakes and successes from the challenges, and reflected on how much they had learned from each other. Their connection was natural and deep, formed through experience, mutual respect, and understanding rather than superficial competition. Rafiq watched from a distance, a warm feeling of pride in his heart. He had hoped that his daughter would meet someone who valued integrity, patience, and courage, and now he saw it had happened. The challenge had been more than a contest. It had been a test of character, and it had succeeded in revealing the qualities that truly mattered. Amina had remained true to herself, and Tariq had shown that honesty, respect, and perseverance could win not only challenges but trust and admiration. As night fell, the village celebrated with a quiet feast. Stories of the challenges were shared, laughter echoed through the fields, and the lessons of courage, patience, and respect were passed from one generation to the next. Amina and Tariq, though quietly, reflected on their journey. They knew that their connection had been built on more than contests and challenges. It was built on shared values, mutual respect, and understanding. They had grown together through the experience, learning not just about each other but about themselves. By the end of the night, the village understood the deeper meaning of the challenge. It was a story of growth, trust, and integrity. Amina had shown that strength paired with fairness is more admirable than strength alone. Tariq had shown that humility and persistence can achieve far more than arrogance or brute force. Together, they had demonstrated the values that would inspire the village for generations. The challenge was complete, but its lessons would remain forever, reminding everyone that true strength is measured not only by skill but by heart, integrity, and mutual respect.